friends. Welcome back to Second Star to the Left. I'm Michelle, and this is my daughter, Billy.
Hi.
And here's where we'll share board game reviews, ramblings, and a few wrong turns along the scenic route. It's February, so we're doing small month, small games. Well, not small games, but small box games, or in today's case, small wallet games. This is our second episode in our Button Shy week, so it's the final episode since, 2 videos a week. It sounds like a bigger week than it is, but it was 2 videos of Button Shy. If you didn't see the first one, then I'll make sure that the link is here, so whichever side that pops up on, go click the link and take a look. We talked about some of our favorite solo games from Button Shy, and today we're going to talk about the question that I get asked the most from people who haven't played, and that is, where do we start? We mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about solo games, and the thing with Button Shy games, there's no one specific type. The games are all different. They're all different genres. They're all different kinds. And basically, if you're looking for where to start, take a look at the mechanic and the theme, and then just jump into one that looks fun. You're not going to find the best one because everybody has a different opinion of what that is. As you can tell by the comments in the last video, everybody is passionate about their favorite Button Shy games, and they love them. There's this huge community of people just like us who have a nice collection of Button Shy games.
She took the big case away from me.
Right now, Billy is looking for the bigger box, and I put it away, so she cannot slide it across the table to tattle on me this time. So tonight we're going to talk about just a few of the games that I think would be a good starter in, not that they're starter games, but some of the most popular ones, some of the ones that people love the most, and some of the most accessible ones. So, and also some of the ones that are usually in print, because sometimes there's a big run on Button Shy, and because it's a small company, things go in and out of print. They do get reprints often, so if you're looking for something like Rove, it's coming back around.
Rove's out of print?
Rove is out of print, but I believe it's coming back in March. I will cut this out if it is not. So, hang on. The more popular ones get reprinted often, and you just got to watch the site for those. We're going to be reaching into our little Button Shy bag again. And I'm going to start just by mentioning quickly one of our favorites, which is called Cunning Folk, which I'm not going to describe too much here because we have a whole video on this from Spooky Month.
It's a really good one, too.
It was one of our favorites to make, so take a look at this one if you're interested. It is a micro bluffing game for 2 to 4 people. You're going to lay out a grid of cards face down, and you're going to be looking to find the good elder and the evil elder, the good witches and the bad witches. If you can locate all of one type and then let everyone know where they are before the other person is, you win. It is fun. There's bluffing. The cards have powers. Like I said, we did a whole video about this one, so if you want to take a look at it, go on over to that video, click like on it, and have a look. The next game I'm going to talk about both the game and its follow-up, because they're very similar, and if you could play one, you can play the other. And that is probably the most famous of the Button Shy games, as far as I can tell from people playing it, and that's Sprawlopolis. Sprawlopolis is one of the first ones, not the first, but one of the first games that we played from Button Shy, and you are building out a grid of cards, a city, a sprawling city. In Sprawlopolis, you have 18 cards. They're all double-sided. You're going to shuffle up the 18 cards, and you're going to deal 3 with the scoring condition side face up. And then depending on how many players you're playing with, you'll deal out hands of cards. It is a 2 to 4 player game. I would never play it with 4 people. I think that's too many. I think 2 is fine if you're working together. You're kind of passing cards back and forth at that point. And solo, you're just drawing the cards up and placing them into the city. And the way that you do that is to put each card down. And as you add to it, you're either matching up areas on the grid, like parks or industrial areas, to meet these conditions to score points. You can place cards over other cards. You can place them over a corner. You cannot place them diagonally. You have to place them orthogonally. But you can cover up sections of the other cards to help achieve your...
Just demolish that section of the neighborhood.
It's gone. At the end, you will score 1 point per block of each of your largest group of each zone type, plus your points for your scoring conditions. If you're playing solo, you're just trying to beat your own score. And I think maybe it takes 10 minutes. Maybe.
It's pretty quick.
It depends how fast you play and just how much you think about each move. I don't always think about them that much.
We might play a little quicker.
We kind of slap them down. It is an incredibly fun little puzzle, and it's got so much variation because you have all these cards, plus you have 18 scoring conditions already. Also, there are plenty of expansions. You have points of interest, which add, bear with me, points of interest for you to build roads to. You have Rectar, which is a 1-card disaster expansion for Sprawlopolis. Rectar gets in the middle of your city and just gets in the way of all building.
Nice.
You have construction zones, which are listed as a 4-card irritation to Sprawlopolis. And that is exactly what they are, because they come with missions on the back, plus 3 cards with construction zones in them to just screw up all of your city planning. You also have an expansion called Beaches, which puts these beautiful shoreside areas in, but also limits where you can build, because once this coastline comes out, you can't build over it anymore. That's it. So now your city is long or, wide, but it's not going to expand in that direction anymore.
Could make some kind of long beach island.
I like Long Beach Island. We just got Beaches and we haven't played with it yet, but this one looks like it'll be a fun challenge. What came next was Agropolis, which, if you like Sprawlopolis but you wanted more cows or pigs or chickens, this would be your answer, because it's basically Sprawlopolis, but now instead you have farmland and pigs and fields and roads. They are both standalone. You could have Sprawlopolis or you could have Agropolis. You can, however, get an expansion called Combopolis. Combopolis. It's really fun to say. You should get them just so you can say Combopolis, which lets you combine them. I'm going to say that I am not a fan of combining them. I feel like you're cutting off a lot of your scoring possibilities, because you have a few cards that have both, but you're limited. You're still going to only pretty much be building out the Sprawlopolis side or the Agropolis side, but you're just limited in the middle. It's a nice challenge. It's definitely worth a try, and the expansions are $4, $3 sometimes, so it's worth it if you want to try to combine them. I prefer to play the sets individually with their expansions. Now, Agropolis also has an expansion that has a 1-card disaster.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Invasion, a 1-card disaster hits Agropolis, which is super fun, and you have a little alien ship there landing in the fields, and as you can see, it is picking up the cows, as alien ships will do.
As is tradition.
So these are some of the most famous, most popular games. They're really good solo. They don't take up a ton of space. You could play them when you were traveling kind of on a tray or something like that. They're really fun to play solo. I know this is not our solo game edition. They are meant for 2 to 4 players. I would say don't go higher than 2 unless, I don't know, you really want to try. It is really fun. It's a nice little puzzle, and it's quick. So if you want to play it and just try to beat that score and go back again and play it, it's one of the better ones to do that with. If you're looking for where to start, I'm sure you have heard someone tell you to start with Sprawlopolis. If you like farmland, start with Agropolis. These are some of my first games. I still love them very much. They're not my favorites anymore, but they are really, really good games, and a definite good way to see exactly what a wallet game can do with 18 cards. Great place to start. These are almost always in stock, and sometimes you can even find them at your friendly local game store. The next one we're going to talk about is one that I don't hear anyone talk about very often. And I think that's a real shame because it was a surprise little hit for me. And that's Arcane Bakery Clash. And in this game, you are two disgruntled employees who have had enough of each other. You're just not getting along with your coworkers where you work at the Arcane Bakery. And you have decided that you're going to have an all-out feud, and the loser has to leave and not work there anymore, and also clean up the kitchen. In this game, each player gets to choose one of the angry coworkers. You're going to use a coin. Remember how I told you sometimes we need those bits and pieces and markers? This is one of those games. So you're going to use a coin to track the health. You're going to have to also use tokens to show how hot the ovens get as you're baking up arcane bakery goodies that will damage your opponent. This is really just a card battle game, but you have to remember what you're baking, and it costs you an action to check the oven to see just how hot it needs to be for that recipe to be completed. If you try to play a recipe and it wasn't completed correctly, it's going to cost you 1 point of health, and you have to discard everything that was in that oven. There are cards that let your opponent mix up your cards. Think Silver Bullet when you get to move the cards around in front of your opponent. And now you can't remember if you're supposed to take that recipe out of the oven at 3 or 4 or 5. You're going to use your actions to get more recipes, or to peek in the oven, or to turn up the heat, or to pull that recipe out of the oven and throw it at your opponent, causing all kinds of damage. This one was so much fun. The art is so cute. You have these little gingerbread golems and syrup elementals. It's adorable, and I don't know why I don't hear more people talking about this game. They also have expansions, which of course we have. And one is Mystery Ingredients, which is going to add some more ingredients for you to toss into the ovens. But the other two are the Boss Bake Off expansions, and those let you play solo. So like any good wallet game, I can also play this one solo. I will say that I have more fun throwing arcane bakery items at Billy than playing solo, but you can play this one solo.
I'm glad you had fun, even though you kept losing.
I was teaching you.
Sure.
This is one that you're not going to hear as a place to start recommendation. But if you like a little card game that's, just dealing damage to your opponent with a little bit of memory, a little bit of press your luck, then this might be a good one for you, especially if you think that the theme is kind of enchanting. And I do. I like a mean bakery. The next one is one of the ones that I always recommend when someone says, which one should I get? Because I think that the drafting mechanic in this one is very, very clever. And that one is Circle the Wagons. If you like a Western theme, or even if you don't, because there's a lot of just set collection and, card placement. I would say tile placement because that's what it feels like, but it's card placement.
Card tiles. Kyles.
You should give Circle the Wagons a try. One of the most unique features of this game is how it is set up. And you have, again, 18 cards that you're going to shuffle up. And like Sprawlopolis or Agropolis, you're going to turn over 3 objectives. But unlike those games, you are going to form a circle of all the rest of the cards.
Or in our case, usually an oval.
Yeah, or sometimes an oval. It's more like Oval the Wagons when we play, but it's fine. Of cards that goes all the way around. Let me just stick this one over here. There you go.
You rushed it and messed up.
Shush, it's just like a circle.
You'll cut over the mess up. It's fine.
I probably won't. Okay, just like that. Magic!
It's so easy.
It's just like a real circle. So you're going to have a circle of cards that you draft from. Again, like Sprawlopolis, like Agropolis, very, very similar in how you're scoring. You have your 3 objectives here, which can be anything from having more cows than somebody else to circling the wagons around one of the items. When we say circle, it means they're going to be orthogonally placed around an item. And you place these cards just like you place the cards in Sprawlopolis or Agropolis, where you can cover up a section of the cards as you're placing them. You just can't place them diagonally. They
and
have
with
to
these,
be...
you can't turn them.
And you can't turn them. They all have to be facing the same. Well, after you choose the first player in whatever way you want to do that, the second player gets to choose which one of these is the starting card. So there's some advantage for going first, but it is kind of mitigated by the fact that the second player tells them where to start, not letting them pick the very best card to draft first. If the second player picks this card to be the starting card, the first player can either draft this card into their new and expanding boomtown, or any of the other cards all the way around. But here's the catch. For every card that the player choosing skips, the ones skipped go to their opponent for free. Doesn't count as their draft, doesn't count as anything. They just get free cards. So you have to decide, is it worth it to skip over 2 cards to get that perfect card and give your opponent 2 extra cards that you're not going to get at the end? It doesn't balance out. You could wind up with way fewer cards than your opponent. It can happen.
Be careful not to over-focus on one objective too much, or neglect any of them, because I completely ignored one that said, have the most cows, and I kept skipping cards with cows and handing them to her.
You're going to score for the largest group of each territory type that's connected in your boomtown, and also for the objectives. If you just kind of forget about some, it could really cost you in the end. This is a very tight and very quick game, so if you make a mistake building out your town, it's going to cost you. But thankfully, it is a really quick game. Maybe 10 minutes, I think.
Oh, not even.
So you can just circle the wagons and start again. I think this is one of the most clever and strongest games. I think it's one of the best 2-player games. There is a solo version. And you will be surprised to know that I have that version. There are actually 2. There might be more, but I have 2. I have the Lone Cowboy and the Lone Cowboy Rides Again. And these provide different objectives that are for solo and a different way to set the cards out so that the game is played over a course of 2 phases instead of you just drafting all of these cards by yourself. If you like this theme at all, if you're looking for a nice little puzzle with a clever drafting and a nice quick 2-person game, this will be the one that I recommend to start with. The next one is by a designer that a lot of people are very familiar with, and that's Elizabeth Hargraves, who designed Wingspan, and that's Tussie Mussie. It is a very beautiful game, and that's because it's also by an artist that you're probably very familiar with, and that's Beth Sobel. These are absolutely beautiful flowers. And this sweet little game is about making a bouquet and a keepsake. That sounds very pleasant, doesn't it?
It does.
It's also a very clever game of bluffing and trying to optimize a 4-card hand when you don't always have a choice in which cards you get. The way this works is you draw 2 cards up into your hand. You look at them and decide which one you want to keep and which one you want your opponent to have. The only thing is you don't get final say. And all of these cards have bonuses, penalties. You're trying to optimize a 4-card hand. Think about a really micro version of something like Fantasy Realms, where you're just trying to make the cards work together. This is not quite that, but it gives me that kind of feel where you're trying to make sure that the cards that score the best together wind up in your hand. The reason that you don't have a real say in what you get is because after you take these 2, you're going to put them out on the table, one face up and one face down, and then your opponent gets to decide which one they want. This is really hard for me because I'm always going to gamble. I'm always going to look at that card that I can't see and think, it must be the one I want. This must be the perfect card.
It's very easy to exploit that.
After you get your card, if you get the one that's face down, it stays face down in your hand, being part of your keepsake. Ooh. You do get to check it once, but then that's it. And if you take one that's face up, then it goes into your bouquet face up. You do this twice each, so that's going to give you a hand of 4 cards, and then you score based on what it says on the cards. It is a very, very simple game, rules-wise. Each round stops after you have 4 cards in front of you. You tally up those scores, and you play 3 rounds. The one with the most points wins. That's it. It's super simple. This game is thoughtful, and it's beautiful, and it's not always in your control to win. There are definitely combos and bonuses that can help you along the way, and penalties you can kind of bluff your opponent into taking. Make them think that that card face down is better. It works if you're playing against me.
Don't even have to try that hard with her.
It's really not that hard. It's quick and it's fun. And again, these wallet games mean that if you want to play a little card game when you're traveling, this is it. You just bring this with you. There is also, come on, guess, a solo expansion, which, of course, I own. That includes different ways to deal out the cards and different strategies. Playing solo it still has the same flavor of playing with 2 people. It definitely does. But it's harder for me to keep track of the turns because you're kind of drawing that hand for your opponent as well. I do like the solo expansion. It just means I have to focus a little bit more to play it.
Which is very hard for both of us.
Just recently, there was a Kickstarter for an entire wallet full of Tussie Mussie expansions. Greenery and orange flowers giving you new suits with different powers. And there's Flower Shop Customers, which is an expansion to the solo game. I have not had a chance to try these yet as they just showed up, but they do exist. And there are so many lovely expansions that they come in their own wallet. I feel like I'm going to have a lot of wallets.
Plus, it's just a really nice yellow.
It is a very cheerful yellow. If you're looking for a more kind of traditional 2-player card game, not so much a battle or throwing arcane gingerbread men at each other, then I would go with Tussie Mussie. It's pretty and it's smart and it's quick. The next one is one of the most popular, even though the theme would seem like it might not be. Skulls of Sedlec is what happens when the plague hits and the graveyard gets too crowded. You have to help the bone collector, who's a half-blind monk, arrange the skulls in a way that makes all of the skulls happy. Yes, that sounds a little bit dark. But no, it isn't. And the art is not...
Yes, it is.
Well, even the theme's dark, but look at the art. Look, those are pretty cheerful skulls, right?
They're still skulls.
But they're happy skulls. Kind of. You're going to set up 6 piles of cards, which become your graveyard. And on your turn, you're either going to dig, which has you flipping over 2 of the cards, or collect, which lets you take one of the cards up into your hand, or stack, which has you building out your pile of skulls. The thing is, the skulls score based on the conditions for each type of skull. Peasants, they're just worth a point apiece. They don't really do much. They don't have many concerns. There's a king, and he likes to be at the top of your pyramid. In a 2-player game, you're going to build a pyramid that looks something like this, and you're going to score points based on which cards are adjacent to other cards. For example, these priests all get 2 points per level, but these criminals get 2 points if they're adjacent to a priest. So right here, you're going to get 4 points. The kings score for every peasant that's underneath them. The romantics score 3 points if they're paired. Aww. Right? So they all have different scoring conditions. There are a ton of expansions for Skulls of Sedlec, including a Kickstarter that just finished. It has another pack of expansions. The ones that we have are the Executioners. They like to be next to groups of criminals. I'm not sure why they would like to be next to them after what they've done.
To make sure they don't get back up.
The Poets like to be next to unrequited love. So they like to be near a romantic that isn't paired. So the sad romantic poet. You have castle guards who like to be above the king so they can protect them. The expansion, obviously, that I use the most, Come on, see if you can guess. Do you know what it is?
Is it the solo one?
It's the solo expansion.
I'm so smart. I guessed it.
The Skulls of Sedlec Monstrance is the solo expansion.
What's it called?
Monstrance.
That's not a word.
It's a word.
Let me see it.
Monstrance. It says monstrance.
Oh, that is what it says. I thought you were crazy.
Well, those things aren't exclusive. Monstrance it gives you objectives for shapes to build, challenges to meet that lets you play solo. So when you're playing with 2 people, you're competing for those skulls in the graveyard. When you're playing by yourself, to make it more challenging, you're building out 2 different shapes of 9 cards each that have to meet certain scoring conditions. This is a really fun one to play solo. It is a really good one to play with 2 people. It's just a really good game. So despite it being stacking skulls after the plague, it is one of the most fun games that we play. The last one we're going to talk about is one that we had for a little while and didn't play.
Because we're dummies.
Because we are dummies. But one that is near and dear to our hearts because the big version of this game is really big to set up. And it's also
one of my favorites. So.
It is one of your favorites. And I say the big version of this game as if they're the same. They are not. But I'm talking about Liberation.
Ooh.
Which is like a teeny tiny game of Star Wars Rebellion in a wallet. It's not exactly that.
But it's got that same fun cat and mouse thing going on.
Right, it's going to give you that same feel, though, which I think is what we were looking for. And besides, show me a game of Rebellion that you can play in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then not have to clean up. You're laying out 4 cards that have the planets on them where you can hide. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, apparently we can't call them the Empire. So the Dynasty lets the Liberation know where they're starting. The Liberation picks a planet to hide on. And then it's just a cat and mouse game. I'm playing cards as the Dynasty, trying to guess where the Liberation base is. The Liberation base can move, but you can only move meeting the conditions on the card. You can bluff.
And you have to announce that you're moving.
You do have to announce that you're moving. There's bluffing. Even if you know where the Liberation is, you still have to be able to get the card to be able to get over there. It's going to give them time to move. The Liberation can't just move. They have to have the card that's adjacent to the site where they're moving. It is a lot of fun. It does have that feel, that cat and mouse chase, the hidden base. It has these wonderful multi-purpose cards that give you the planet, the Liberation's action, and the Dynasty's action. The art is adorable for the aliens and the Liberation and the Dynasty. The Dynasty wins if they find the Liberation, and the Liberation wins if you can cycle through this deck 3 times. Now, with 4 cards out and a couple out in your hand, that's not very long. 3 times through the deck goes pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think, though, every time we've played, the Dynasty has won. I don't think the Liberation won.
Not yet, but...
It was close.
Yeah.
But we haven't played that many times. We have played a few times. We switch back and forth who's going to be which side. It's a pretty well balanced, pretty fun game. There is an expansion called Moon of Mystery, which adds kind of a moon of mystery.
It's a very mysterious moon.
Which is another place where, people can travel to. This is a really fun game. If you like Star Wars Rebellion, but you don't want to take out that big box, you want to be able to throw it in your backpack and take it on vacation with you, definitely check this one out. It's a lot of fun. It's cat and mouse, and I would recommend it. It seems like it's going to be harder to learn than it is. Once we actually just kind of read the rules,
it was easy.
It was
peasy.
Really easy to play. Plus, again, the Button Shy Discord has answers to tons of questions if you have them, has a really helpful group of people, and you'll even see the Button Shy people jumping in there to just say hi. So jump in there if you have any questions. Go to their Patreon and subscribe and get one of these wallets sent to you every month. It's kind of fun. Thank you for sticking with us again through all of these Button Shy games. Obviously, we really love them, and we want everybody to find something in here that they love.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't rank these in any way because they're all very different. But these are my answers to the, I want to try a Button Shy game. Where do I start? So between these and some of our favorites from the solo video, this is where I would recommend that you start. There are a lot of Button Shy games that we did not mention tonight. some that are newer and we haven't gotten to play, and some that we just had to cut because otherwise we would have been here for 6 hours talking about all the Button Shy games. There's some really beautiful new ones like Tides that came out recently that we just haven't had enough time to really play that we could give a good review. We're going to review those. Making Manhattan came out. The new Skulls of Sedlec expansions came out, so I'm sure this is not the last Button Shy video that we do.
Not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. Thank you for indulging my little addiction. I hope that you like what you see and that you find something fun to try. If you do like what you see,
or if you want to keep watching until we get one right,
then please like, subscribe, and share. If you want to follow us on social media, all of that information will be down below. As always, open tables, open minds, and play yourselves.
bye! No.
Orthogonally.
You gotta go back and do it again. Can't do that.
Okay.
Which is, for orthogon.